because you had it to the that is the 10th.
Yeah, I
place
realized it
value.
after I turned it in. I was like, oh no.
I didn't count off for
Oh,
that, but
okay.
we're definitely gonna have a discussion about rounding because a lot of people don't know how to round when they're usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I messed
just totally
up.
forgot what that meant, and then afterwards I was like, oh man. I could get
I
everything wrong.
But I thought that it was, and I was like, oh, there's something else zero, but
What's that spot?
Is that a suit?
then I worked it out.
Did you ask him?
Oh, no.
Did you ask him?
Dude,
You did?
dude, he's stomach.
And so I wrote it with the one decimal and then rounded it to 12.
Yeah.
I don't know, I
But
wondered if you're gonna
I
ask
don't
me
know
to
what
say.
it's gonna take.
I'm probably not going to.
Just do both.
Whatever I asked.
Yeah, I just wondered if you did.
I've already read it.
I know what I got.
Oh,
I don't know.
sorry.
I don't understand. I thought I understood some, but I feel like it's not good. This is
I started last night and
because mine is add. Yeah, I was going to, but then I come to this one, so it's
I have 11 to 4 and 6.
good point. I'll just ask someone else.
What time is it?
I just didn't do this
This was right?
Oh, I know you did
Okay,
that.
I'm done. I don't even know how I missed
That
that.
was sad.
That's too bad. Get out.
I wonder if
Nice
it's
job!
Oh, 17? No.
I said 50.
I wish.
It was a blurry.
Oh, you probably rounded.
Last one you got a perfect score and I got like 40. Now we're done it.
This is 10.
Like
calculator,
calculator,
like,
like, gosh. When I say a bunch of things, like I get.
Because
like,
this is the
like,
hypotenuse,
same
it's
and
opposite and adjacent.
Oh, Mandy. Wait, Mandy.
For number 9 and 10 was like was supposed to square root them. Dang it.
Okay, let's go over it, and if you have any questions as we go, let me know. 1 and 2 are worth 3 points each.
Can I borrow one of those? It doesn't matter which one.
Number 1,
Yeah, it's so big. It's so big. It's baby.
these are Pythagorean theorem. You were given A and B, so A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A was 2 squared root 3, B was 4. 2 square root 3 squared means 2 squared square root 3 squared, which means basically 4 times 3, which is 12. 4 squared is 16. And so you have 28 equals C squared, square root. If you just left it like this, you missed the point because it needs to be in simplified radical form, which would be 2 square root 7.
I just didn't put it in simplest form.
Oh,
It was 3 points, so that was only 1 point. Number 2 should have come out even. It should have come out to be 12.
Oh, I just did that one wrong, I guess.
I think your work was right. I was kind of confused how you got your answer actually. Because this is all right.
I know.
Isn't that funny?
Then you went from there to there.
Oops, and then that one I forgot the square root is another point. That would have been a 45.
Oh, maybe I typed it wrong on my calculator.
Look what I did.
You did way better than I did,
I
Morgan.
said 12 divided by 3 was
Paper
6.
next time.
That's good. I think that's the stupidest
Well,
thing,
that's why
because
you got 1
like,
point because I
I'm-
can see that.
Did you say 8 plus 8 was 9?
No,
Is that what you said?
8.8 equals 9.
Yeah,
Because
we're
I didn't
sorry.
realize it was almost 10.
That means you are one of the people that actually knows how to run through.
But I did the wrong one.
Okay.
I did-
Because I didn't know if
I did both of these wrong.
Okay.
She said minus 2.
Um,
She changed it to 3.
I think everybody got 3 and 4 correct. Those are 2 points each. 3 was no, 4 was yes. 5 and 6 were 3 points each. 5 was 9 and 6 was 4 square root 3. Questions on those? Hannah?
Number 6.
Number 6. So you are given B is 12, and that is the x square root 3 or a, whatever letter you want. I was using a before. A square root 3, that's a. 2a, and you need to find a. So if 12 equals a square root 3, to get a, we would divide by the square root of 3. 12 divided by the square root of 3 is not in simplified radical form. We cannot leave the radical in the denominator. So we multiply that by square root 3 over square root 3, which gives us 12 square root 3 over 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that'd be 4. Okay. Other questions about 5 and 6? 7 and 8 were also 3 points each. 7 was 6, and 8 was 15 root 2 over 2. Some of you put 7.5 root 2. That really isn't a correct way of writing that, but I didn't take any points off. You can't really have a decimal and a radical. It either needs to be in decimal form or in radical form, and since I asked you to leave it in simplified radical form, you would just leave that as, for number 8, you would just leave it as 15 square root 2 over 2. Because the 15 over 2 won't reduce to a simpler fraction. So some of you wrote it as a decimal. I didn't take points off of that, but just so you know, that's not really correct way of writing that. Morgan?
Could you do number 7?
Yes. 7. You are given A is 3 square root 2, and that's like L square root 2, and you have to find C. So if L equals 3 square root 2, and we put that in here, C would be 3 square root 2 times the square root of 2. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 would just be 2, so that would be 3 times 2, which would be 6.
I thought the hypotenuse was just twice as long.
No, it's the square root times the square root of 2.
That
It's
would
twice
make a
as long with the 30, 60, 90,
Oh.
but not with the 45 rule.
That makes sense. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Alright, any other questions on 7 and 8? 9 and 10 were also worth 2 points each. 9 was the square root of 97 and 10 was the square root of 122. Neither one of those simplified. Aaron?
What'd you say that they were again?
Square root of 97 and the square root of 122.
The only reason
Okay.
I got these wrong.
Any other questions on the front? Alright. Rounding to the nearest tenth. We need to discuss that. It sounds like a little thing, but who knows? They could get you big on that for standardized tests. Sometimes they're picky like that. If you don't write it down right, especially on the ones where you have to like fill in the number and then bubble it in. If it says round to the nearest 10, and you didn't round your answer to the nearest 10, and it's worth 1 point, you get nothing. You could have everything right. So we need to be careful about that. So let's talk about that. I didn't write down any of my actual answers to be able to round them, so let's just make up something. Whatever. Okay. So the 10th place value is right here. Okay? This is tens. 3 is, bless you. The 3 is in the tens place value, the 9 is in the ones place value, and then we go tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, right? Yes? Okay, So 5 is in the tenths place value, so to round to the nearest tenth, we look at whatever's to the right of that. If it's 5 or more, we round it up. If it's less than 5, we round it, or we just keep it where it is. So in this case, 39.5678 would round to be 39.6 because the 6 is higher than 5, and so we round that to 39.6. Wolfies?
Go, continue, I'll just ask like.
Okay, I didn't count any points off for rounding because we didn't discuss it. I just sort of thought we all knew how to do that. But maybe with all the SOHCAHTOA running through your head, you just forgot about the easy stuff. So I didn't count any points off for that. But we do need to be better about that for next time. Okay, so 11 through 18 were worth 2 points each. Basically 1 point if I could see that you wrote the correct equation to start off with, and then 1 point for your answer. 11 was 13.8, 12 was 6.0, 13 was 12.9, and 14 was 5.5. Any questions on 11 through 14? Yeah?
Could you do either like 11 or 13?
Yes. $11. Okay, so in relation to this angle, this is adjacent, this is hypotenuse, and so we have the cosine of 37 equals the adjacent, which is 11, over the hypotenuse, which is x. 11 and 13 were both the same way in that the x was in the bottom of the fraction here, which is why I suggested that possibly cross multiplying could be a good method that will work every time for you to solve for these, because we are not going to be able to multiply 11 like we would be able to if the x were in the top, okay, because that's not going to make it go away. So we could cross multiply and then we would get x cosine of 37 equals 11, and then to get the x by itself we have to divide by the cosine of 37.
Thank you.
And 13 was also that way. Okay? You weren't the only one that missed it. Questions about that? Okay. And that gives you 12.9. Alright, 15 was 22.6 degrees. 16 was 36.9 degrees. 17 was 17.1 degrees. And 18 was 50.0 degrees. Questions on 15 through 18? Aaron?
Can you do 15 or 17?
Mm-hmm. You should have used cosine, and 17 you should have used tangent. So 15 in relation to this theta, the 12 is adjacent and 13 is the hypotenuse. So the cosine of theta equals 12 over 13. So theta would equal the inverse cosine of 12 over 13, which would be 22.6.
Okay.
Okay? Alright, 19 and 20 were both worth 4 points. 19 you should have gotten 49 feet. You did need to add the height of the man, Michael. You needed to add 6 feet onto your answer. So if you put 43, that's the only thing you forgot. And that was, I took 1 point off for that. It was a 4-point problem. And 20 will do, because I'm not sure. Raise your hand if you got 20 right. Well, about half of you. You should have gotten 9 degrees for number 20. So we'll do that one. Were there any other questions about 19? Okay. So 20, most of you caught the fact that you would need to change the units. And you could change it to miles or you could change it to feet, it didn't matter. But we do need to have them in the same units in order to do this. So if you have the plane, there's the horizontal for the plane, and then we have the ground and the runway. Okay, and we know that the plane is 3,500 feet up and 40 miles away from the runway. Okay, so one of these is in miles, one of them is in feet, so you do need to convert them. I converted feet to miles to get, which would give you about 6.63 miles. But then I did leave that number in my calculator so that it was the whole long decimal when I was calculating it, not the rounded one. Or you could have, a lot of you converted miles to feet, which means that you don't have a decimal, so you don't have to worry about accuracy, but it's just a really big number. 40 times 5,280. Back.
211,200. I didn't write it, it was too big, so I decided not to.
Like that.
I didn't even know I had to convert miles to feet.
So, either way, you just need to make sure you use them both the same. The other problem that we had with this problem is the correct angle that you were looking for. So they want to know what angle of depression, which would be this angle, right? But if we're looking at this triangle, it would be more helpful to have the angle of elevation between the runway and the plane, which are congruent, remember? So it's going to be opposite over adjacent, so tangent of theta equals, if you did feet, which I think most of you did feet, so it would be 3,500, is that 35,000?
Yeah.
35,000 over 211,200. So it's the inverse tangent of that. Which would be about 9.4.
Why do you have to do the inverse tangent?
Because, yeah, you're finding the angle. To get the theta by itself, right now the theta is with the tangent, so to get rid of the tangent, we have to do the inverse tangent. Anytime you're finding an angle, you have to do the inverse of it. Just like for numbers 15 through 18.
Yeah. I knew that, never mind. Sorry.
Okay. So I was worth 4 points, so depending on, if you just didn't convert the units, I just took off 1, I think. If you had everything else correct, if you, or maybe 2, 1 point for your answer, 1 point for the units. If you had the right, if your picture, if you did your work right for your picture, but your answer was wrong, I tried to take that into account too, so 4 points, you got partial credit depending on what you had. Okay? Any questions about the test? No? Okay. I will, we're gonna start talking about circles.
Oh.
So I will let you guys,
Do you want to start?
start, yeah, I'm gonna get them, but I figured you could start on this while or not, cause it's like, so go ahead and get out your notes.
Is it Friday?
Yeah.
Do you want to
You don't know when it's Friday?
Yeah.
back or do you want?
Yes.
I'm gonna leave this Friday.
Try again, physical activity.
I get it. You guys take ballet.
When is that?
I just failed the test. Give me a break, Morgan. Please.
Fifth grade? Okay.
Thank you.
circle, the formal definition of a circle is the set of points in a plane, so they have to be in the same plane, that are a given distance from a given point in the plane. And that given point that all the points in the circle are the same distance from is the center, okay? And then, so when we're talking about circles, we either have the circle itself, so points that are on the circle, or we have the interior of the circle, all the points that are inside of it, and the exterior of the circle, all the points that are on the outside of it, okay? The first theorem on circles is theorem 8.1, which says that a line that lies in the plane of a circle and contains an interior point of a circle intersects the circle in 2 points. So basically, if a line goes through the interior of a circle, then it has to intersect with the circle in 2 different places.
You're so loud.
It's like how like massage talks to your ear.
And then we have quite a few definitions as we get talking about this.